It's promoting it. Like, yeah, you are. They're supporting you, Sagar. There's a thought. I do not know. Oh yeah. No, that we can't touch anymore. Oh, there's no switch, eh? You try to tell. What's going on? Want to do a sound check? Test, test.
Test, test.
Cool. What's that? It's kind of weird having. Oh, you can set it up. So when I did this, so Sarah brought her reusable water bottle. I gave you one of those, and then when the picture got taken at the meeting outside the street, she like commented. She's like, "Brandon, how unsustainable are you?" Oh. And it's like, you gave it to me. She's like, "Hey, Tina." Hey. That's like that chair up here. Sure. Thank you. Okay. The freshmen get younger each year. Should we get started? It's our timing clipboard, but we don't need to time it. All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 2018 General Election President's Meet and Greet. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge we are on the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta, and that the city of Calgary is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. My name is Branden Cave, and for the next 53 days, not that anybody's counting, I will be your SU president. And right after that, this gentleman to my right will be your next president for the 76th SLC. So we're here today to give you an opportunity to get to meet and greet your new president-elect and kind of get a sense of what he's going to do on your behalf over the next year. So the goal of today is to make sure that you get that opportunity to understand better what his plans are. So this is normally when I would go over how the candidates will work, but since we only have one candidate, we will not have any timings or warnings or cutoffs, so feel free to ramble on. I don't think I have enough questions to fill an hour. We'll also ask the audience to take an opportunity to ask any questions that they may have. And voting days, just a reminder, as we will remind you many, many times this week, voting days begin tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on your student center and go until March 8th at 4 o'clock. So with that, I think it's probably time for you, Sagar, to introduce yourself to your people.
So hi everyone, my name is Sagar Grewal. I'm the next SU president. I'm a third-year student in the Faculty of Kinesiology studying biomechanics. I just want to start off by saying thank you to all of you for coming today. This is a great turnout we have here. Um, as for my actual platform, for what I hope to do next year, it focuses around a couple key issues. So those being first off, Mac Hall. So with the resolving of the Mac Hall dispute that was accomplished by this current SLC, I look forward to actually launching a consultation to get student feedback for what the next Mac Hall redevelopment should look like. Mac Hall is a building built by students for students, and so it's time for students to actually think about what do we want our home to look like. So what would we want to change? The last consultation was done in 2012, but since then our campus has changed drastically, and therefore student needs have changed quite a bit as well. So there's a need to actually relaunch the Mac Hall campus to get a better idea of what our home should look like in the future and what it will look like for years to come. Aside from that, I would also like to relaunch the SU town halls. So the SU hasn't hosted town hall in quite a long time, and it is something that's actually in the president's portfolio. And so the SU town hall would be a better way to engage with students. So it would allow the students to come out and ask questions of their executives that they elected, and ask them certain things about their portfolios and get to actually know what they do. It would also be a chance for the SU to showcase its annual plan, which currently we do have in hard copy form, and you can view it online, but this would actually be a presentation, so it's hopefully more accessible to students passing by through Mac Hall, which is definitely the hub of student life on campus. Another key issue would be the next U of C president. So we do know that with Dr. Elizabeth Cannon's resignation that's upcoming, a new president will be here at the University of Calgary, and so my job will be to make sure that student interests are strongly represented by the next president and making sure that the student experience is a priority of theirs. And that's something I will make sure is done. It's very helpful to know that the student experience is now a cross-cutting theme in the ISI strategy. And so for me, it's going to be a key to make sure that applicants demonstrate that commitment to not only myself, but to all students on our campus to make sure student voices are heard and the student experience is a top priority of theirs. Aside from that, other things include the SU Constitution. It's a document which is one of our guiding policies and one the SU is built on. However, there are some issues with it. For example, it is not necessarily inclusive to people who may not identify with a binary gender. And so that's something that I hope to look into to see if we can review it and possibly look for recommendations to amend the SU Constitution to make sure it's inclusive for all members that are members of the student union themselves. So it's inclusive to all people who pay student fees to us, and therefore we can provide them with an accessible organization as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Sagar. So I have a couple questions for you that I'll ask, but I will invite at any point in time if anybody wants to come up and ask a question. The microphone is just to our left, your right. Come up and ask a question. Until then, I'm just going to keep going through my questions, and I'm going to start off with, I think it's a fairly high-level question, but one that I think is pretty important for the SU president to have a good sense of. So what is your vision for the future of the Students' Union during your year as president?
So during my year as president, I think one of the biggest things will be the Mac Hall consultation, because this will set up the SU for years to come for what may actually happen with our home. And so I think relaunching the Mac Hall Compass will essentially provide us with data to actually compare to the 2012 data as well, to see what has changed on our campus and what student needs are current and what students will want in the future. And that's something that will probably go beyond my time. So I know that my successors and the executive team successors will have to get to know that information, get to know that data to better serve our students. I think that's one of the things I think a big pillar will be for myself in this upcoming year.
Perfect. So one of the challenges of the president's role is the perception that they have a hand in each of the vice president's portfolios. Depending on the year, this can kind of have different results on the dynamics of the team. So they do, however, have a role of coordination with the vice presidents and work with each on various issues and projects. Which issue or project are you most excited to collaborate with one of your vice presidential portfolios?
So I think it's great to see that the Vice President Operations and Finance candidates have looked over the Mac Hall dispute and that it is resolved and they are knowledgeable about it. And part of that is that a number of them did include that they also would like to consult students. So I think it's great that those 2 points do align on both of our platforms. So I really do look forward to actually working with them on that. As again, it is the Vice President Operations and Finance and the President that work together on Mac Hall. So I think I'm definitely looking forward to working together with all VPs, but with the VP Op 5 for sure, that's probably one of the things I'm most excited about just because of my passion for the platform point.
Fantastic. So with the one of the roles of the president is to advocate to various levels of government with the vice president external, both with the Canadian Alliance of Student Associations, our federal lobby group, and the Council of Alberta University Students, our provincial advocacy group. So what role do you see yourself playing in there? And what role do you kind of see the University of Calgary Students Union playing within those organizations?
So to be someone from the University of Calgary Students Union does mean a lot because we definitely are a very strong student association within the province and within the country. So I think for the UCSU, a big part of it will be leadership, honestly, especially amongst cause, where we're all working together with the same provincial government and dealing with those issues. I think it's going to be great for the UCSU to take a leadership role. For myself, that may mean getting involved on committees or boards of cause. And as CASA, again, being nationwide leaders in terms of showing how things are happening here in Alberta, especially with the changing political climate and what that might look like as we've had different governments over the past few years, and kind of, just working together with many other CASA schools to show them what we've done to become such a successful student organization and how we continue to shape our future to stay successful as well.
Which of our advocacy points do you see yourself championing kind of as a not a pet project, but kind of in that something you want to take ownership on and see guided through your year?
That's a great question. So I think one of the advocacy points that I really do care about is deferred maintenance on campus, just because it relates to physical spaces. Reason being is that that's something I've worked a lot on in my previous roles as a faculty kinesiology representative with study space renos, with gender inclusive change room renos. So I do understand that space on campus is obviously a very important issue, and therefore I'm very glad to see that deferred maintenance was an advocacy point of ours this year, and I hope to kind of continue that push as we need to ensure, for example, even the deferred maintenance of this building is something that needs to be addressed in the years to come.
Fantastic. So you mentioned the SU Constitution in your platform, and kind of the issues surrounding the binary gendered language in there. So what are your first three steps that you would take on your work towards amending or consulting on the Constitution?
So I think some of the first few steps would definitely be to work with our policy analyst team here in the SU, Mr. Jonathan Olford right here. I see he's very excited about it, but also to consider, once we do review the document, is there a need to get external help as well? And if so, are there other constitutions we can look at? So kind of doing an environmental scan of what other constitutions might include to make ours more inclusive, if there's anything that maybe we're missing or anything that needs to be changed about ours to make sure it fits with the PSLA guidelines as well as the needs of our students are represented within our own guiding policies.
You also mentioned in your platform continuing the President's Consultative Task Force. What's your vision for the task force during your year?
So it was great being able to actually attend some of the PCTF meetings this past year. I think some of the things that I would possibly change about it is, first off, it's tough being a student on the PCTF to attend meetings, so maybe holding even more surveying and consultation online, so that for students that do miss meetings, give that feedback in advance or set them up with some discussion questions which they can then respond to if they can't make a meeting, and then therefore it can still be discussed with everyone else at the table. Another issue I think would be, it's with such a passionate group of students, it's easy for discussions to go just about anywhere. So having a set agenda for what we like to discuss from the SU, but then also having an open section for where any other business can be brought up by students about issues that they care about. That can also be put out on the floor for discussion, because that way we can stay focused on discussions at hand for the time being, but still give students a chance to voice opinions about literally anything that they care about, so we can discuss those issues that they care about as well.
Fantastic. Do any of our audience members have a question for the President-elect? Can wait for a minute. Feel like I need to do the whole teacher thing. I can sit here all day. Yeah. Okay, we'll keep going with another question. If somebody wants to get up to the microphone, that'd be great. So you also mentioned, and it's really great to see it having such a prominent place in your platform, but the next SU president, so yourself, will be a member of the university's presidential search committee. What do you believe is the most important thing to look for in the University of Calgary's next president?
I definitely think, again, one of the top priorities for myself as someone who's representing undergraduate students is to have student experience be a top priority. The fact that student experience was not recognized in past strategies of the University of Calgary is something that I'm glad to see changed. However, therefore, that means I would also like to see the next president continue that dedication and commitment to student experience and actually build on it. There's a lot that student experience entails, and it's different for everyone. So again, I think I'd appreciate a president who appreciates the diversity of the student experience and hopes to address multiple facets of it to make sure that all students at U of C do feel welcome and actually enjoy their time here. Because again, there's no one size fits all mold for what the student experience really means to us.
That's fantastic. So we're gonna shift over to a little bit of test your knowledge about the SU. So we're gonna do true or false. So I'm gonna give you a series of statements. You're gonna give me true or false, and then there's gonna be a follow-up answer or follow-up question to see kind of what your if you've done your research. A little bit obscure in some of these areas, but they should be good. So the first question is, or first statement, true or false? The Students' Union has an advocacy policy on differential tuition.
False.
No, that is true.
Okay.
The differential tuition advocacy policy was brought in during market modifiers. The whole issue with those. So, not differential tuition, but could you name one of the other 5 advocacy policies of the SU?
What are the 5? Deferred maintenance.
Campus infrastructure, yeah.
Campus infrastructure. Do you want to name all 5 or just one?
Name as many as you can.
Oh.
Let's have an learning moment.
Sustainability.
Yep.
Sustainability. What else?
No help from the audience?
I do not remember any other one.
So we also have tuition and fees accountability policy. We have our secondary suites policy and mental health advocacy policy. Okay. So true or false, the president sits on the Student Success Center Steering Committee of General Faculty's Council.
False.
That is false. Can you name one of the committees of General Faculty's Council that the SU president sits on and one that the VP Academic sits on?
The SU president sits on
Bonus points if you name them all.
Tuition and Fees Consultation Committee.
They sit on it, but that's not a GFC committee.
One. Shoot, I'm thinking too many of BOG committees, to be honest. I'll get back to that one.
Do you want to name the BOG committees?
Well, there's that one, and then there's Budget and Finance.
Very close, my friend. We have, so for Board of Governors, you sit on Finance and Properties Committee and Budget Committee. And then for General Faculty's Council, it's Academic Planning and Priorities Committee and Campus and Facilities Development Subcommittee. Now about the second part of the question, because the president works very closely with the Vice President Academic. What's one of the Vice President Academics committees that they sit on for General Faculty's Council?
Academic Calendar.
So close. Calendar and Curriculum Subcommittee and Academic Planning or Academic Program Subcommittee. So you meshed them, but that's good. Okay, next. Oh, there's an audience question. Perfect.
Don't
Running out of
worry.
stuff to say.
Don't worry, I didn't know any of those answers anyways. So either. Hi, my name is Hillary. As someone who identifies as a feminist, how do you plan on bringing feminist ideals into the role as president?
Very good
That's
question.
a great question. I think so. One very direct objective that could be accomplished is to make sure that we are encouraging female students to actually get out in the election, and that's something that I would be able to oversee next year with the work of our SU staff actually. So encouraging female candidates to actually run in the election, because we do know that there's a great disparity often, and actually getting female students to stand for public positions often because they might feel like they aren't qualified, or they might get intimidated by having to run against male opponents. And so making sure that female students do feel empowered and actually running for these positions, because that representation is needed.
I think your point about the Constitution also fits in there very well about removing gender binary language. Okay, so next question on our speed round. So this is true or false. The president signs SU checks if the vice president operations and finance is not available.
True.
Very good. Which other executive has signing authority?
VP Academic.
Wow, he knew that stuff. All right, the next question is, or next statement rather, is the Students' Union manages and runs the SU Wellness Center.
No, it does not,
Why is it named the SU Wellness Center?
because we gave them financial support and got naming rights.
Fantastic. Are there any other audience questions at this time? Yeah, there's one. You look familiar.
Hi, Stephen.
So, I'm sure you've probably talked about the Board of Governors. So, can you name all the Board of Governors committees and name which ones the SU president sits on? Can you name all the Board of Governors standing committees and which one the SU president sits on?
So, yeah, I don't think I know all those, no.
Okay.
But I am attending a BOG meeting coming up soon, so I hope to learn.
So there's finance and properties, budget. Let me see if I even know. Health. Oh, no, that's not a committee. Audit. Human resources and governance. Environmental health and safety committee. Is there another one I'm missing? Oh, executive committee. There we go. Okay, next question is, what's one of your weaknesses, and how do you plan to overcome it in the role?
I care too much. No.
You don't have to get voted in anymore, Sagar. You're good.
One of my weaknesses. I think it's going to be interesting being a lone wolf the last 2 years as a faculty rep at Knies, actually getting to work with an executive team and with staff. So I think that's going to be definitely a learning curve for me, is knowing how to work with other people, as well as making sure I stay out of their portfolios to an extent that I don't feel like I'm intruding on theirs, or at least they don't feel that way either. So yeah, getting to learn that new team dynamic for sure.
Which one of the committees that is chaired by the president are you most looking forward to chairing? or being
Quality
involved with?
money for sure, easily. Just due to having applied to it multiple times now, I look forward to being on the other end of that whole process. But yeah.
Fantastic. Any more audience questions? There we go. Perfect.
Hi, my name is Ryan. I just wanted to know what made you decide to run for SU president, and what makes you think that you will be the best person to represent students next year.
This is a great question. I actually got asked at my gauntlet interview. I gave a very different answer than what I'll give right now. But the reason why I wanted to run for SU president was that I felt over the past year and a half, I've been able to make a big impact on my faculty. However, I'd like to expand that impact to the campus. Being someone who got involved with the SU in first year, I owe a lot to the SU. I feel like the SU has helped me a lot in my development, and I think that that development is something I hope to repay the SU by being in a leadership position for the SU and giving them that time and serving students as an executive. So my hope's really to give back to students what the SU's given to me in terms of skills and leadership, and I hope to really show that this upcoming year.
So one of the most interesting relationships between the president and the VPs is between the president and the vice president academic. And I'm looking right at Tina right now. How do you envision your relationship being with your vice president academic as you kind of share the duties of General Faculty's Council and representing students?
I think I'm looking forward to working with either vice president academic candidate. I think they're both very qualified and they're going to do a great job regardless of who it is. I do see that as someone who's been on the SU now for over a year and a half, the vice president academic does a great job of running everything related to GFC. And I hope to continue that trend. The vice president academic sits on all these GFC subcommittees, so I think they definitely do deserve to lead the charge when it comes to General Faculty's Council. And I'm more than happy to let them do that so that they can kind of showcase their skills and their expertise in that area. And I hope to just be there to support them in the role as someone else who does sit on GFC.
Excellent. I'm running out of questions, folks. Perfect.
Hi, Hillary.
Since Brandon's asked about everyone but me,
You're my next question, I swear.
and I need to be the center of everything. Just kidding. What do you see your role as being with the vice president of student life? Typically, the VP, SL, and the president are working too closely together unless there's some issues going on. So what do you see that role being?
So with the vice president student life, I think there's a bunch of potential opportunities to collaborate and work together. First off, the VPSL does a great job of engaging with students. And so with that being a potential outcome of what I hope to get out of the SU Town Hall, I'd hope to work with the VPSL to think about what are the best ways we can engage students further. The VPSL has also done great work. So Hillary Jahalka, for example, this year has done great work for gender inclusivity advocacy, and so that's something I hope to actually continue to work on with the next VPSL in this constitution review as well.
I did have a question for you about the VP student life, and it's a matter of preference. Pizza days or muffin talks?
I'm kind of disappointed you had to ask. Pizza days forever, honestly. Pizza days for life.
Bye, Hillary.
I'm still in your exec house.
Ryan, do you have a question for us?
So the president portfolio kind of has a little bit of every executive kind of in it, and the president kind of has to work quite a bit with different execs depending on what the issue is or whatever kind of is going on. How do you plan on working with your executives, and can you kind of describe a bit about your leadership style and how you're going to collaborate with execs to come to a better outcome?
It's a great question. So I think definitely my role as a president is not to overstep into other portfolios. And I do agree, it does have a bit of every other vice president's portfolio within it. However, I think my role is there to support them in that. So they all do have their own platform goals. They all have their own hopes and aspirations for what they want to accomplish in the year. And so I don't think my job is to necessarily shift them to do what I think is best for their role. It's rather to actually support them in accomplishing those. And so I think my job will be to be more of as an enabler or help them out with anything I really can, whether that's promotion or whatever kind of leadership skill I can bring to the table in that case. Yeah.
Fantastic. I think I'm literally out of questions. Does anybody have any from the audience? For his acclamation? Yeah, what would be your theme song for your acclamation?
Sticking with the Drake theme, God's plan. That's the only way you get acclaimed, clearly. Yeah.
Oh, I see a question.
Who are you? Excuse me?
All right. My name is Anthony. Well, I just have a question regarding the acclamation. So, sort of, since you scared away your opponent, how can you make sure that you're more accessible to students, or are you too intimidating?
Can I actually poll the audience? Hands up if you think I'm intimidating. Okay, that's quite a few. Clearly, I'll work to address that. I hope I did not intimidate anyone out of running. My hope was actually to have an election campaign so I could put up all these posters all over the campus. But in working with accessibility, I guess just being visible and actually consulting students one-on-one directly, being more accessible in terms of consultation efforts with students on many issues, just even something simple as polling. It might not necessarily be the most engaging way, but that's still one more student voice that you heard that you wouldn't have otherwise. So I think exploring different avenues really, because any engagement is better than no engagement. So just kind of increasing that engagement to as much as possible.
So if you had ran an election against one of the current executives, which one would you have been most afraid of running against?
Which one would I have most?
Which one would you have been most afraid of running against?
Hillary Jahalka. For sure.
I mean, I've done the job for a year.
I think Hillary's done a great job being visible this year in the VPSL role, something her predecessor didn't do as well, for sure. I'm kidding, Patrick. But so for that reason, I think Hillary's been very effective in her role this year, and therefore I think her outreach and her voter base would have been massive, and therefore I definitely would have been most scared of Hillary for sure.
Fantastic. A fun question for you. Which mean girl are you?
Let's see. I I'll go with Gretchen.
That is an acceptable answer. Okay, is there any other questions from our audience? Kind of final call. Nobody? Okay. Then Sagar, what I think is best to kind of go into closing remarks is please deliver the closing remarks you would have if this had been a debate and you were trying to vie for people's votes.
All right, so if I was in a debate and I was to close off, I would say, I hope you all vote for me. I have the experience being in the SU for the past 2 years in this role. I've been under leadership of Stephen Guska and Branden Cave and learned a lot about what they do. And I think I've shown interest in their portfolio since essentially day one. And therefore, I think I'm prepared to lead this organization. I think the 75th SLC was, in the words of Branden Cave at his Color Night speech, a turning point. And so I would hope to be the leader that keeps it going in that direction, and we continue to improve and hopefully build for the future of the Students' Union.
Fantastic. You have my vote. A round of applause for Sagar for taking our grilling. I definitely have every confidence you will do a fantastic job, Sagar, so I'm very happy for you to be my successor. Thank you to everyone for attending. I actually had a lot of fun. I feel like this is a little bit more relaxed than a debate. Some good questions. I got to go help my VPs not have hurt feelings now, so I'll go do that. Last couple things. So voting days are March 6th to 8th, so starting at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. If you log on to my.ucalgary.ca, you can vote. There's a little button right beside, right on the left-hand side. So make sure you do take that time to vote for your other candidates. You're not only selecting the people who will represent you, you're also selecting the people who will be on the team with Sagar and helping push this organization forward. And then don't forget, most importantly, even above the election, is the results will be announced in the den on the stage at about 5:30-ish, I'm fairly certain. So make sure you come out. It's a Thursday, so we will have Thursday student-friendly pricing. You can commiserate or celebrate with your favorite candidates depending on how they do. And with that, I just want to say thank you very much and have a great day.